Beyond Coherence,
where authority outpaces understanding. This is Supervised Autonomy. One. The Swarm. Captain Rupert Everard smoked like it was the last civilized habit left in the desert. One boot on a sandbag, he scanned the horizon, a wavering shimmer caught in his aviators. Beyond the outpost barriers lay the outskirts of the city, its ragged edge warped by the rising heat. Half-built structures of concrete and steel sprawled across the outer blocks like a broken promise. Lieutenant Tom Ashby took up position beside him, posture rigid with the crisp formality only the newly commissioned carried. "Smoke?" Captain Everard asked, extending a silver case toward the lieutenant. "No, sir. Thank you, sir," said Ashby. "I don't smoke, sir." Everard snorted. "Pity. Out here, it's the closest thing we get to a break." He drew deeply on his own cigarette, then nodded toward the city. "Charming, isn't it?" "Can't say the brochure quite captured it, sir," Ashby replied. Everard let out a low, humorless laugh, flicked the glowing butt into the sand and ground it under his heel. They stepped away from the barrier, threading between two six-wheel trucks as they headed for a small tan-coloured tent. "Right, lads," Everard called. "Get them open." Two soldiers emerged and pulled the camo tarps from the backs of the vehicles. Inside, the tent was only marginally cooler. The air hummed with electronics and tension. At the center sat a black box, about the size of a hard-shell suitcase, mounted on a low metal stand. A folding table faced a series of monitors, lines of data cascading down the screens. A soldier at a laptop snapped to attention as the captain entered with Ashbury. "Ready, Corporal?" Everard asked. "Firefly system standing by, sir," Corporal Fletcher replied. "Good." Everard slid off his aviators. "Time to go to work." "Copy." Fletcher toggled a switch. "System engaged." A thin, insectile buzz sounded in the air, growing into a chorus of electric wings. Ashbury turned toward the sound, stepping to the tent's opening as the drones ascended, sleek black triangles rising from the backs of the trucks. They hovered in disciplined rows, testing the air, then pitched forward as one and tore toward the city, slipping into the haze like locusts drawn to distant fields. A wireframe map materialized on screen, streets and buildings rendering block by block. Green points flickered across the display in constant restless motion, then one turned red and vanished. A soft pop drifted back on the air, like children setting off firecrackers in a nearby street. "What was that?" Ashbury asked. "A hostile," Fletcher answered. "Pacified." More points turned red before winking out of existence. "You're not flying all those drones, are you?" Ashbury murmured, leaning in over Fletcher's shoulder. "Don't be ridiculous, Lieutenant," Everard said. "That thing's in control." He jabbed a finger toward the black box in the center of the tent. Matte and featureless, the unit emitted a soft hum. A blue light twinkled in its top corner like a distant star. "I thought these systems were semi-autonomous," Ashbury asked. "Supervised autonomy," corrected Fletcher. "The AI takes care of everything. Navigation and mapping, behavioral analysis and threat scoring. It even has facial recognition, checking against a database of known targets." "And the cherry on top," Everard said, voice dry, "a pinch of plastic explosive in each drone. Spot a threat, go for the head, and detonate." "It handles all that, for the whole swarm?" Ashbury asked, the gap in his training suddenly uncomfortably apparent. "We'll show you," Everard said proudly. "Corporal, engagement view." The far screen switched to a live feed, a fisheye lens fixed on a man at the mouth of a narrow alleyway, a woodstock rifle hanging loosely from his shoulder. A green tracking box locked onto him, updating with every subtle movement. System readouts pulsed on the adjacent monitor. Threat index 0.21, weapon identification, posture analysis, behavior model prediction. The behavioral model updated, pushing the threat score steadily upward. 0.58, 0.73. The man shifted his weight, then snapped the rifle up toward the camera. Instantly, the system recalculated. 0.91, 0.99. The box around the man turned red and the drone surged forward. Buildings blurred until his face filled the frame, a flash of panic in his eyes. Then the feed cut to black. The strike was too distant to hear. Still, Ashbury's mind supplied the pop. The system output flashed. Target resolved. Collateral damage estimate 0.00. Confidence 0.99. Ashbury swallowed. Feels like watching someone play a shooter. Section cleared, Fletcher reported. Marvellous, Everard said, giving Ashbury a sideways glance. Bring them in. Moments later, the faint sound of motors drifted back across the desert. Ashbury moved to the tent's opening as the first drones crested the rooftops, dark specks against the glare. When they reached the outpost, the drones pitched down over the trucks, the first units dipping neatly into their docking bays. At the heart of the operations tent, the box's hum snagged for a beat, a stalling sputter lost beneath the noise. Halfway through the formation, the returning drones began to falter. One sagged sideways, its motors stuttering before cutting out. It dropped, hitting the sand with a hollow crack. Another followed, then another. Everard stepped up beside Ashbury. "What the hell's going on?" he muttered. Fletcher hammered at the keyboard. "Sir, assets are failing," he called. "The controller appears to be transmitting nonsense." One by one, the drones plummeted like toys with dying batteries. Then came a crackle over the radio, sharp and professional. "Firefly 1, this is Overwatch. Situation developing in the inner district. Possible hostage scenario. Command wants swarm support ready ASAP." Everard didn't blink. Of course they do. He turned on his heel toward Fletcher. "Lock everything down, tell HQ the system is offline, and get Helix Systems on the horn." 2. The man from Helix. A helicopter arrived within the hour, its downpour whipping sand against the tent. Captain Everard and Lieutenant Ashby stepped back as the skids touched down and a lone figure disembarked. A young man, early 20s, flight suit half unzipped in the heat. In one hand he carried a metal equipment case that glinted in the sun, all brushed aluminium and reinforced corners. His open coveralls revealed a yellow protective layer, the same plasticky material Ashbury had seen in CBRN drills. Then Ashbury spotted the sticker on the side of the case, a bright orange biohazard symbol. Everard snapped a salute. The man returned it with a quick, practiced flick. "Owen Leach reporting," he shouted over the rotors. "Helix Systems, field triage." "What's your rank, soldier?" Everard shouted back. "I'm not military, sir. I'm an engineer." "About bloody time, we've got a situation." He jerked his head toward the tent. The three of them moved inside. Fletcher shot to his feet the moment they entered. "Systems isolated, sir," he said. Without saying a word, Leach set his case on the table with a muted clack and began stripping off his flight suit. Everard turned to Fletcher. "Give us the room." Fletcher blinked. "Sir?" "That's an order, Corporal." Fletcher swallowed, muttered "sir," and slipped past the others to the entrance. As the flap fell shut behind him, Everard turned to Ashbury with a stare sharp enough to pin him in place. "Lieutenant," he said, his tone turning dangerously calm, "what you're about to see is classified at the highest level. If a single word of it leaves this tent, spoken, written, hinted, or breathed, you will be court-martialed, stripped of rank, and shipped so far off rotation you'll forget what the sun looks like." He held Ashbury's gaze, letting the weight of the warning settle. "Am I understood?" "Yes, sir," Ashbury managed, though his stomach had begun a slow, uneasy turn. "Good." Everard nodded once, then looked to Leach. "Proceed." Leach pulled up a chair at the laptop. His fingers were already flying across the keys before he'd even settled, eyes narrowing as system logs streamed down the screen. "Get it up on the display," Everard said. "I want to see what we're up against." Dense blocks of color-coded text began scrolling down the monitors. "What am I looking at?" Everard demanded. "Data packets sent over the cortical cloud network," Leach said. "Traffic between the controller and the swarm." Ashbury studied the screen, trying to decipher what he was seeing. "See the top line?" Leach said, highlighting a single row of text, a neat header with an ID code and timestamp. "That's normal. Clean metadata, valid checksum." Ashbury squinted. "Checksum? Means the packet arrived intact," Leach said without looking up. "But the payload," he murmured, highlighting the block beneath, a jumble of letters, numbers, and symbols. "It's all corrupted." Ashbury frowned. "What does that mean?" Leach sat back slightly, studying the data with a pinched expression. "It means the controller's outputting nonsense. I'll have to check the SBI." "SBI?" Ashbury echoed. "Synthetic biological intelligence," Leach said, glancing over his shoulder at the box in the center of the tent. 3. The Assembloid. Leach stood, the chair sliding back with him. "Biological, you say?" Ashbury asked, unable to sit on the question any longer. "That's right," Leach said, approaching the black box. "More cost-effective than conventional AI." Sunlight filtered through the canvas, casting a pale glow across the unit's matte surface. Its status light glowed amber, pulsing like a heartbeat. Leach crouched beside the device and put a fingertip to a pane of black glass set flush into its face. The surface shimmered, ripples spreading outward like disturbed water. The top half of the box shifted from black to cloudy grey, then dissolved into full transparency, revealing the device's interior. Ashbury drew in a sharp breath. Beneath the glass lay a tightly packed assembly of tubing, micropumps, and neatly bundled wiring. At its center sat a shallow circular well, its surface covered in a thin layer of pale tissue. "What is that?" Ashbury asked, leaning closer despite himself. "That," Leach said, "is an assembloid." Ashbury blinked. "And it's alive." "I bloody well hope so," Everard muttered. "The life support environment is functional," Leach said. "Oxygenation, nutrient flow, waste removal, all nominal. Tissue viability should be 9 months." Ashbury stared at the membrane under the glass. "But what is it exactly?" "It's a co-culture system," Leach explained. "Excitatory neurons self-organize into layers. Interneurons migrate into the protocortex and integrate into circuits. It mirrors early neurodevelopment." Ashbury swallowed. "Those are brain cells." "Yes," Leach said, matter of fact. "Differentiated from stem cells we reprogram from dermal tissue." "From what animal?" Ashbury asked. "Human," Leach said flippantly. A tight, uncanny discomfort settled in Ashbury's gut. "You see the points," Leach continued, calm and clinical. "Beneath the tissue? Microelectrodes, thousands of them." Ashbury squinted. "They record the network's electrical activity, but they can also stimulate it, delivering tiny pulses. That's how we give the network its inputs, tasks, reinforcement." Ashbury frowned. "Reinforcement? Rewards and penalties. Same principle as training an artificial neural network, except this one learns faster and uses a fraction of the energy." "So it's a computer," Ashbury said. Leach exhaled. "Biological computing substrate. Pattern recognition, behavior modeling prediction. It's what neurons evolved to do." Everard cut in. "Can you get it working again?" "I'm running onboard diagnostics now." Leach tapped a few icons. The main monitor flickered, listing checks line by line. Electrode impedance check, passed. Noise floor measurement, nominal. Stimulation channel integrity, stable. Network activity scan. The final line froze, then expanded into jagged plots of electrical spikes lashing across the grid. Leach's expression tightened. "That's not normal," he said. "Chaotic bursts with almost no input. The network's hyperexcitable." Ashbury frowned. "Meaning what?" "It's firing at shadows. The smallest stimulation sets off the entire sheet." A prompt appeared on the touchscreen. "Initiate epigenetic analysis. Accept, cancel." Leach hit accept without hesitation. The system chimed and began a new sequence. Everard stepped closer. "What's it doing now?" "Preparing tissue samples," Leach replied. "Extracting DNA and running assays for specific epigenetic markers." "How long's that going to take?" Everard pressed. "I'm prioritizing neuroplasticity markers," Leach said. "So about 40 minutes?" The minutes crawled by. The heat only grew heavier. Ashbury stood at the tent's opening while Everard paced the strip between the guide ropes, chain-smoking with grim efficiency. "Sure you don't want one, Lieutenant?" he asked in passing. "No, sir. I don't smoke," Ashbury reminded him. "You will," Everard said, taking out another. When he lit his 9th, the tent flap whipped open. "Captain," Leach called. "Results are ready." Everard flicked the unsmoked cigarette into the sand and strode inside. Ashbury followed. "There," Leach said, pointing at the screen. "That's the issue." A panel expanded. Epigenetic profile neuroplasticity. BDNF, promoter hypermethylation. ARC, enhancer hypermethylation. FOS, elevated methylation variability. "What am I looking at?" Everard demanded. "Epigenetic changes in the network," Leach said. "What's BDNF stand for?" Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Neuro what? It regulates synaptic plasticity. Learning, memory, adaptability. Hypermethylation in the promoter region suppresses gene expression. Everard scowled. "In English, it's a signature of severe physiological stress. Early developmental trauma, chronic overload, adult PTSD." Ashbury stared. "So the system is traumatized?" "No," Leach said without missing a beat. "Not psychologically, it isn't conscious. This is physiological stress, affecting the neuroplasticity of the system." "I said English, damn it," Everard barked. "Sorry," Leach said. "Think of it like stressing plastic. Bend it enough and the material changes, but you wouldn't say the plastic is stressed or distraught when it snaps. Ashbury swallowed. So what are you going to do? Leach opened his mouth. Everard cut him off. Get it working, he growled. That's what he's going to do. I need those drones operational and back in the field. 4. Mitigation. The sun felt almost above them, a dense, suffocating weight pressed down over the outpost. Inside the tent, the box's hum had thinned to an irregular whine, its light fluttering arrhythmically. Leach studied the pale tissue through the glass with narrowed eyes. Everard hovered behind him like a compressed spring. How long to fix it? Everard demanded. Leach didn't look up. That depends on your definition of fixed. My definition, Everard said, the edge in his voice sharpening, is operational in time to save hostages. Don't worry, Captain, Leach replied, his tone disarmingly steady. Now that the root cause analysis is complete, mitigation is underway. Everard blinked as Leach pulled his boots free. Go on, Everard pressed, the voice of a man trying to hurry a situation that seemed determined to crawl. We're initiating a full failover, Leach continued, unfastening his flight suit. The material peeled away with a soft rasp, exposing the yellow suit beneath. A backup SBI is en route. Critical response SLA is 40 minutes, maximum allowable downtime 2 hours. We're well within compliance. Everard turned sharply toward Ashbury, looking for somewhere, anywhere, to redirect his frustration. Leach straightened. Now he addressed the primary unit. He crossed to his equipment case glinting on the table. We stock pre-prepared hotfixes for scenarios like this, he said, unclipping the latches with a muted clack before lifting the lid. Ashbury saw surprisingly little inside. A smaller sealed container occupied most of the space, secured by 4 stainless steel latches, vapor curling faintly from the seam. We'll reverse the stress-related changes, Leach explained, pulling at a limp finger protruding from a slot in the case. It unfurled into a glove. He freed its pair. For this, we use a modified CRISPR construct to remove excess methyl tags from the affected gene regions. He pressed a pad in the case lid and a measure of clear gel dispensed into his hand. Ashbury caught the sharp, sterile bite of alcohol evaporating through the tent as Leach rubbed his hands. Leach retrieved a narrow metal rack from the case and set it on the table, then took out a pair of slender surgical tongs. Carefully, he unlatched the inner container. As he lifted the lid, a dense plume escaped, spilling over the rim in a rolling cloud. He dipped the tongs into the drifting vapor and probed inside. They emerged gripping a small plastic vial tipped with a long needle-like projection. Its interior glittered faintly with crystalline ice. It's perfectly safe, he said quietly, placing the frosted vial in the rack with a soft click. Though I should inform you, these hold the viral delivery constructs. Ashbury stepped back instinctively. Everard stiffened. Leach lifted another vial out of the vapor, then another, until the rack was neatly filled. He carried it over to the SBI unit and set it atop the box. He swiped a thumb across the touchscreen on the front. A soft chime answered, and a circular port irised open, no wider than a pen. I designed this construct myself, Leach said, holding the first vial between his fingers to melt the frost. He guided the long tip into the exposed intake valve and squeezed it gently, releasing its payload. The display responded with a faint glow. Ashbury's throat tightened. Leach withdrew the empty tube, returned it to the rack, and inserted the next. Everard edged closer. I would appreciate it, Leach said without turning. If nobody bumps my elbow, I'd rather not aerolize these viruses. Everard froze. His boots were planted, arms folded tightly against his chest. Leach emptied the final vial and set it aside. The fixes deployed. He peeled off his gloves and put them in his pocket. Propagation through the substrate will take roughly a week. A week? Everard's voice sliced through the air. Leach gave a small professional nod. Once the changes saturate, we'll monitor telemetry and confirm remediation. We can then fail back to the primary unit and decommission the backup. Ashbury took a half step closer to Everard. Sir, he said quietly, choosing his words with care, if this were a soldier, we'd be pulling him out of the line of duty, not sending him back in with more explosives. Everard didn't hesitate. But it's not a soldier, Lieutenant. It's a machine. Ashbury fell silent. He couldn't shake the feeling that nothing had truly been solved, only delayed. 5. Recovery. The next helicopter came in fast, dropping into a hard tactical descent that hammered the outpost with rotor wash. 2 soldiers burst from the tent, pushing a low metal trolley between them. They reached the skids just as the crew wrestled the backup SBI unit free, another matte black box, cold and featureless, indistinguishable from the first. Everard watched as if sheer will might speed them up. Get it inside, he shouted the moment the box hit the trolley. The soldiers drove it across the sand and into the tent. Inside, They lifted the faulty unit from its docking frame and locked in the replacement with a decisive click. Power and data cables snapped into place. The nutrient medium and waste disposal lines were plumbed into the life support environment. Leach supervised the transfer without ceremony, directing them with quick, precise gestures. Ashbury hovered at the entrance, watching the process unfold with mounting apprehension. Boot procedures unfurled across the monitors. Leach fixated on the diagnostic stream, the tension in his shoulders easing with each check that passed. The new SBI unit's light strobed once, then settled into a steady green. The box hummed with purpose as the network stabilized, predictable, confident rhythms answering each digital command. System integration complete, he reported as the unit's light shifted to blue, blinking rapidly with the surge of data traffic. Leach allowed himself the smallest nod, a quiet satisfaction tightening the corners of his mouth. "Fletcher!" Everard yelled. The corporal appeared instantly, snapping a salute. "Deploy the swarm." A fierce readiness flashed across Fletcher's face. He slid into the chair, hands moving with practiced ease as he initiated the sequence. Outside, the buzz rose again as the drones lifted from the vehicles. They adjusted their headings toward a single distant bearing, then shot forward in tight formation. Everard strode out of the tent, his gaze fixed on the drones against the skyline. Ashbury trailed behind him. Everard flipped open his cigarette case and held it out. "Smoke?" "No thanks," Ashbury said. Everard lit his own, taking a slow drag before exhaling into the wavering air. "I remember when drones became standard kit," he said. "When was that, sir?" Ashbury asked. "Afghanistan. MQ-9 Reapers." For a brief moment he looked hollowed out, a quiet fatigue cutting through his composure. The midday sun carved harsh shadows across his face, deepening every line. "You've seen a lot of action then," Ashbury said softly. Everard gave a brittle smile, the kind that doesn't quite reach the eyes. "The war never ends, son." A faint pop emanated from somewhere in the city, then several more in quick succession. Each one turned Ashbury's stomach. "Can't take the heat out here," he muttered, stumbling back into the tent without waiting for permission. The wireframe map pulsed across the main screen. Rooftops, alleyways, grids flooding with crisp telemetry. Green markers swept forward like a tide. Several blinked red, then disappeared. "Area cleared," Corporal Fletcher reported. Everard nodded once, satisfied. "Good. Keep them pushing inward." Out of the corner of his eye, Ashbury saw something flicker. He turned toward the far side of the tent. The original SBI unit rested on the floor under a draped cloth, silent and inactive. Or it should have been. A light winked once beneath the fabric. "Sir," Ashbury said. A dim pulse stirred beneath the cloth. Slow at first, irregular, like a heartbeat trying to restart. 6. The break. The glow beneath the cloth strengthened. Everard stiffened. "What now?" Leach approached the faulty unit as if it were a caged animal. He pulled at the fabric and it slipped cleanly over the edges, revealing the cube beneath. The unit's light held a steady green. "It was in maintenance mode," Leach said under his breath. "I/O should be disabled." Everard scowled. "English?" "The neurons fire on their own. That part's normal. Spontaneous activity, background noise." Leach hesitated, eyes narrowing. "But the interface layer only listens when we're expecting an output." Ashbury frowned. "And we're not expecting output." "No," Leach said. "You don't want a calculator spitting out numbers when you're not pressing any buttons." Everard stepped closer, jaw tight. "What does this mean, Mr. Engineer?" Leach stared blankly at the box. "I don't know." A system alert appeared in the corner of one of the monitors. "Unauthorized cortical cloud connection attempt." "Sir," Fletcher called. "I'm getting something odd." But Everard was already rounding on Leach. "What do you mean you don't know?" he barked. "I mean I don't know," Leach snapped back, the last of his composure spent. "What part of that is unclear?" Everard's expression set like stone. "I should have specified I needed a competent engineer. How long have you even—" "Captain," Fletcher called again, louder. He twisted around in his chair to face the pair squared off behind him. "Sir, you need to see this." Ashbury, guided by instinct or dread, approached the monitors just as engagement view toggled on the far screen. Live footage from a drone snaked through the treetops. In a clearing beyond, a young boy stood playfully swinging a stick. A green targeting box locked onto him. Threat index 0.39. Across the tent, the argument continued. Leach met Everard's gaze with a fragile steadiness. "Verbal abuse?" isn't tolerated under company policy. Hiding behind your contract when a few words start flying, Everard snarled, flecks of spittle spraying from his mouth. Their voices bled into the background as Ashbury fixated on the screen. The boy froze when he noticed the drone. Threat index 0.49. Ashbury felt something cold pass through him. "Corporal, look," he began, but Fletcher wasn't listening. He sat with his back to the monitors, one hand thrown out to the side, palm flat toward Ashbury's face. "Captain Everard," Fletcher continued, voice taut. "Sir." Everard drowned him out without hesitation. "This is a war zone," he shouted at Leach. "Out here we deal with bullets, not hurt feelings." On screen, the child slowly raised the stick like a rifle, pointing it at the drone with fragile bravado. Threat index 0.91. The target box turned red. "No!" Ashbury screamed. "What?" Everard roared, turning on Ashbury like a weapon. A sharp ping cut through the tent. They all looked toward the monitors as the drone lunged forward. The child ducked, just as the drone jerked violently upward, its engines screaming in a sharp digital whine. The park blurred into streaks of green as it climbed, flying directly at the sun, its light bursting into a blinding halo. Glare flooded the lens before the drone banked hard and flipped onto its back. For one disorienting second, the camera turned the city upside down, streets curving like meridian lines on a globe, towers bowing toward a warped horizon. The world hung suspended above them. Fletcher gaped. With perfect mechanical grace, the drone snapped out of the inversion, stabilized itself instantly, then surged onward, its gaze locked onto a point on the skyline, a distant smudge of shapes that seemed out of place. "What is that?" Everard asked. As it closed the distance, several bulky shapes came into view, half swallowed by camouflage. Everard squinted. "Enemy outpost. I see you, you devils." "Sir," Fletcher said, his voice tightening, "all the drones are returning home." A metallic thrum rolled through the air outside, rising fast. "What?" Everard thundered. "Who authorized that command?" Suddenly, all the displays blacked out, and then two words appeared, stark and pulsing. "Get out." Leach went pale. "That's not a system message." Fletcher swallowed. "Captain?" Everard's jaw clenched, veins protruding from his neck as if his body were bracing against the rising pressure inside the tent. The tremor of the rotors drew closer. Ashbury glanced at the old SBI unit on the floor, its blue light flaring with unyielding determination. He sucked in a breath, panic finally breaking through. He ran. "Lieutenant!" Everard bellowed after him. "We've got a mission to complete!" Ashbury didn't look back. "Coward!" Everard's voice cut through the stifling heat like a whip. "I'll have you shot for desertion!" Ashbury had barely cleared the trucks when he heard it, a needle-thin whine descending from the sky. The first drone streaked into the tent and hit the top of the backup SBI unit, detonating on impact. Fragments of glass, metal, and tissue sprayed across the canvas. The second drone hit a moment later, driving through a tear in the canopy and slamming into the primary unit. The rest of the drones spiraled out of control toward the tent. One after another, they slammed into it in a relentless cascade, the full force of the swarm reducing the structure to ruins. Then, silence. Ashbury forced himself upright, legs trembling. Smoke drifted through the air in thin, wavering sheets. Slowly, he made his way toward the remains, the canvas hanging in threads, shrapnel scoring every surface. Leach was somehow still alive, barely, slumped against a bent support pole, his chest rose in uneven, stuttering breaths. "It killed itself," he whispered thinly. "Why?" His gaze slid past Ashbury, unfixed, already leaving. One last shuddering breath escaped him. Ashbury stood alone in the wreckage, the desert already shifting to bury it. Through the ringing in his ears, a silent realization took hold. They had built a machine to shoulder the decisions they could not, and today it drew a line in the sand. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe, and click the notification button so you don't miss when I upload new ones.